Hey guys, and welcome on into the next NHL season preview show. Today we're going to be talking all about the Nashville Predators, looking at, of course, their additions and subtractions, upcoming free agents, possible lineup for the opening day, and then, of course, team future bets and player future bets. And Nashville's an exciting team. They had a really exciting offseason, so I'm excited to go out to discuss them. To do that with me today, I brought in Ian Cameron Apabano Bets. Ian, you've of course been on the show on the previous shows before, but for people that don't know you, maybe just give them a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, it's good to be doing a few of these preview videos again, Terry. The structure that you have for the videos is very good. Yeah, very in depth breakdowns. Good to have when you're going into the new season. But yeah, good to be back. Of course, the Ice Guys show is going to enter the seventh season coming up. It's hard to believe it's been around that long with me, Alex B. Smith. Frequent contributions from Matt Robinson and we're probably going to have even Nicholas Nevalainen, our friend from Finland, on a lot more this year. Ryan Garbett, who played many years in the NHL, is going to be more of a fixture on the Ice Guys show this season as well. So we got lots of guests coming in, contributors to the show. We're going to add to that pool as well this year. And like I said, it's I think we do a phenomenal hockey betting show, the best there is, and we're looking forward to getting it going once again in October. And of course, on Twitter, X at Bobano Bets, and looking forward to talking a little Nashville Predators, a team that I think could be in for one heck of a season.
Awesome. Yeah, and as I discussed with Alex in the Blackhawks show, the betcast that Ian and Alex
Yes,
do on the Ice Guys
Frozen
is
Frenzy,
can't
October
miss.
the. Let me just get the date right, Terry. October the 22nd. There it is. Frozen Frenzy. That is our first Ice Guys live betcast of the season. Don't you dare miss it.
Yeah, it's great, fun time, lots of live bets. It's a great time, so you definitely don't want to miss that. But we'll begin the show here with the Nashville Predators and talk about additions and subtractions. And as you can see here, some teams have very small lists. If you look at the Minnesota Wild, they made 5 total additions and subtractions. And then you look at the Nashville Predators, and it's been a very busy offseason for Barry Trotz here. I'm going to start first in this segment, and then we'll kind of switch it up as we go along. I'm going to start with the subtractions here. Um, and Anthony Beauvillier is obviously replaceable. A lot of these guys that the Nashville Predators moved on from are replaceable. Tyson Barrie, Troy Grosnick, AHL goaltender, so definitely replaceable. Jason Zucker going over to Buffalo. And Zucker, when he is healthy, he's a great forward. He's a great top six forward, a speedy guy, definitely has scoring ability, but he doesn't stay healthy. That's been his issue for many years now. Lankinen as well moves on. And then most recently, the Predators moving Cody Glass in a trade. And then very recently, Yaroslav Askarov moves to San Jose. So losing Glass, losing Askarov is definitely not great for the Nashville Predators long term. But then you have to look at what they brought in here. And of course, moving Glass, cap casualty. When you add as many guys as the Predators did, you are going to need to subtract some guys in order to stay under the cap. Um, Brady Shea, great defensive or great D man added here for the Predators, who've always usually had a good set of D men. Matthew Murray, third goaltender, will probably won't be playing too much for the Predators unless there's a bunch of injuries. Then you've got Marchessault and Stamkos, and that is the two big additions in the free agent market. Nashville got both of them. So two huge additions. We'll talk about more about them later. Vinny Hinostroza, depth guy, if he really plays too much. Scott Wedgwood coming over from Dallas. And with the Askarov trade, Wedgwood has that backup spot. It's Nashville is one of those teams where we don't expect a goalie controversy. Saros, with his a long-term deal, is the starter. Wedgwood coming in here to be a backup for a very good Predators team, so it's a good spot for him. Kiefer Bellows might play, probably will stay in the AHL. Jake Lucchini from Minnesota again. depth guy. And then the most recent guys traded for Askarov. I don't really expect them to have that much of a impact here in the first season for the Predators. Ian, two big lists here. The Nashville kind of did a lot this offseason. And what do you think here about the additions and subtractions?
I mean, it's going to be unanimous, I'm sure, from everybody in the hockey world that it was just a phenomenal offseason, phenomenal free agency for Barry Trotz. And you look at what this team did last year. I think Barry Trotz saw that, hey, we weren't expected to be great last year. I think we definitely played better, maybe a little overachieving, but at the same point in time, they had a great second half, and it was a sustained, strong stretch that they played of great hockey in the second half. And it led into a playoff series against a team that was one of the best teams in the West last year, the Vancouver Canucks, where Nashville, even though they lose the series, they were very competitive in defeat. And a lot of those games could have went the other way. I think Barry Trotz saw that, Terry, and he figured, I can add to this team. I think we can take another step. I think we've seen enough from this team that if I just add some pieces to go with what we already have, we can take another step, not only be in the playoffs this season, but also maybe win a couple of rounds. And boy, did Barry Trotz go to work. He brings in Steven Stamkos. Yes, it's the back home stretch of his career, you could say, but there's still, I think, a few good years left in Steven Stamkos. There's still that one-timer on the power play from the faceoff dot. There's still that ability to finish. And I think when you look at his ending of his tenure with Tampa Bay, where he had been his whole career, he is going to be playing like a guy that is absolutely motivated. That did not end well. It was not the treatment you would expect of a guy that's been a captain of the team for almost his whole run at Tampa Bay, and a guy that played his whole career there. And I think he felt slighted. It was a slap in the face, the contract that he was offered by Julien Brisebois. And I think when you look at that, he's looking to not only wipe the slate clean, but I think Steven Stamkos is going to try to show people that, hey, there's still a lot of game left in this guy. And I think you're going to see that from him here with the Nashville Predators, his new team. Obviously, they bring in Jonathan Marchessault. So, you bring in a Stanley Cup winner. You bring in someone that can be an offensive difference maker, someone that's going to help on the power play. Brady Shea moves the puck extremely well from the blue line. There were always little concerns about his defensive game, that he's not physical enough for a guy of his size, that he's not exactly astute at times in his own end, clearing the net, just doing the little things defensively. But I think he's improved in that regard. But he's more so, puck mover, someone that can get the rush going, can get in on the power play too if need be. So you look at all those additions for the Nashville Predators. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be able to score goals. And, Scott Wedgwood for a little bit of insurance at the goaltending spot. He'll back up UC Saros this year, obviously moving out Askarov to San Jose. I love how the Nashville people, by the way, the PR department puts out, no, we expect Yaroslav Askarov to be at training camp, even though he demanded a trade. And, a week or so later, he gets traded to San Jose. That's just PR shit. Internally, they knew they weren't going to keep him. Internally, they knew he didn't want to be there, that they were going to do something at least to try to orchestrate a trade for him. And that's exactly what happened to give him a chance to play elsewhere. So we'll see how that goes for Nashville. The losses are minor, other than Zucker. I think still can play at a high level, capable of it. Tyson Barrie, who just got offered, I believe, a PTO with his old team Edmonton. So going to be interesting to see how that goes for him. But you can live with that. You've got some good pieces on the blue line. Anthony Beauvillier really had a down year last year, whether it was with Vancouver, with Chicago. Bounced around from team to team. Just wasn't a great season for Anthony Beauvillier overall, so that's not a big deal. I'm a little surprised Cody Glass got traded, I'll admit, because I think Cody Glass has some upside to Pittsburgh. But at the end of the day, if you're going to bring in the kind of guys Barry Trotz brought in, like a Stamkos and a Marchessault and a Shea, that's going to add up against the cap, and you can't keep everybody. So I think victim of the numbers game a little bit was Cody Glass. But hard to look at these additions and subtractions as in totality, not think Nashville's upgraded the team.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There are two RFAs that have yet to be signed for this season, so we'll discuss them coming up here a little bit. So there could be some more additions and subtractions here, depending on what happens with those two guys. But we'll discuss a little bit about them there in the next segment. Ian, we'll start first. You'll start first here in this one. Upcoming free agents, of course, some teams have big lists. Then we've got the Predators here, who have their guys locked in long term. What do you think about this free agent list? Who do you think the Predators should focus most on re-signing here in the offseason?
Well, when you see the kind of resurgence in his career, now again, he's an older guy now, and did he maybe max out last year? Is he going to duplicate what he did? But there's no denying the chemistry that Gus Nyquist had on that top line with Phil Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly last year. That line carried them for parts of the season for the Nashville Predators, and it's the kind of chemistry that's not always easy to generate with a top line trio. And if you decide you're not going to re-sign Gus Nyquist, who's a UFA after this year, are you going to be able to get that chemistry on that right wing side of that top line from someone else? That's the kind of balancing act you have to make. He's probably going to, if he has another good season, he's definitely going to want more money based on those 2 years here in Nashville. But again, you're talking about now a guy that's aging a little bit, and you might look for a cheaper, younger option instead. At that spot. So it's going to be interesting to see. First, it's all going to be dependent on what kind of season he has, and I think the Nashville Predators are kind of thinking, yeah, he's not doing that again, even if he is playing with Forsberg and O'Reilly again this year. So I think that's kind of the gamble they're making, Barry Trotz, that there's nowhere to go but down probably for Nyquist as far as production after the great season that he had last year. Because if you really look at it, I mean, last year was just incredible. I mean, are you kidding me? 75 points, 23 goals, 52 assists, 75 points. You know what he had the last 5 seasons before that? 27, 53, 42, 40. His high water mark was a split season between Detroit and San Jose in 2018, 60 points. I mean, he didn't even come close to 70. So they're banking on a little bit of a downturn here, or at least regression a little bit. Not going to be able to put up those kind of numbers this year, even if he is playing with Forsberg and O'Reilly again. Luke Evangelista's got plenty of upside, great release, good shot, good offensive instincts, can finish. He's a restricted free agent. I think if you look at it, especially if Nyquist has a dip in his play this year, there's going to be more of an onus on let's get the younger kid, longer upside, longer future ahead of him. Luke Evangelista signed. And then Dante Fabro's turned into, I'm telling you what, one of their more important defensemen. He's probably going to play with Yossi again. And this tells you all you need to know about Roman Yossi. How many great players and how many defensemen that have played with Roman Yossi that he has helped make better. And Dante Fabro is a perfect example of that. This is a guy that, marginal defenseman, depth defenseman when he first got to Nashville. And now here he is playing on the top pair and playing pretty solidly on that top pair. And there were times last year when he was injured, you could tell they missed him. So that's a credit to Yossi from a leadership standpoint, helping these young defensemen develop. And Nashville as a team just, allowing these defensemen to develop. So Dante Fabro, a UFA, that's going to be priority as well. So unless Nyquist goes crazy and has another 70-point season again, or 60, 70 points, even 60 would be great for him. I think there's more of a focus toward the younger guys in Luke Evangelista and Dante Fabro as far as the free agents coming to after this year.
Yeah, you can see the pictures that I chose on the screen, so I completely agree with you. Those are the two guys. But I do have to say about Nyquist, he was great when he was in Minnesota for that last half of the season there, and I wanted the Wild to re-sign him. I wanted Bill Guerin to re-sign him. He didn't. He goes off to Nashville last year, and Nyquist point props. I know you cashed on them with me Ian as well, but Nyquist point props at plus money so much throughout the season last year when he's on that top line and he's on a 5-game, 6-game point streak and it's still plus money. There was just a lot of value with Nyquist last year. So hopefully we still get some good value with him.
24 of his points on the power play too last year for Gus Nyquist. I think one of those deals, quite honestly, what's going to happen is, let's say he gets close to last year, 60 points, 70 points, and it's a second straight year where he's awesome. I even then still I'm not sold on them re-signing him. They might just say, you know what, let's just enjoy him for 1 year. If he has a great year, fine. But I still, even if he has a great year, I don't know if they'd pay him the money he'd be looking for after 2 phenomenal seasons like that for a guy that, again, a lot older than the other 2 guys they need to sign.
And has heavy injuries in the past. So
that is true. Are we going to get 81 games this year again from Nyquist?
Yeah.
Big question.
Moving on to the next segment here is possible lineup. And of course, the 2 guys I was mentioning there, Philip Tomasino, Juuso Parssinen, Neither of them have been signed as we're recording this. Of course, a lot of the time, as soon as I record the preview show, news comes out the day after. So we might see what happens with Tomasino and Parsonen if they're re-signed before the show airs. But looking at the forward group, I'll start here with this segment. Um, Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, most likely they're staying together to start this season. You probably don't want to mess with something that was so good last year. And the two new guys coming in here, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, projected to be on the same line together. Um, see how that chemistry builds. Just looking at the two type of players they are, it feels like there should be a great chemistry between those two guys. Colton Sissons is projected to be on the third line, but if I was head coach, I would probably have Tommy Novak there with the players available here. Novak had a great season last year. I'd give him a shot between those two guys. Jankowski, Novak, Evangelista are projected to be on that third line. Novak and Evangelista did develop a good chemistry together, so I can understand them being on the same line together. Smith, McCarron, and Bellows on that fourth line. Of course, I'd much rather see Parsonen in there. Again, he was a player that I cashed with last year at times. He had some good hot streaks there, and not sure what the holdup is with getting him re-signed. He is an RFA, but we'll see what happens there. The defense, Yossi and Fabro on that top pair, Brady Shea and Carrier on the second, Jeremy Lozon and Luke Shen on that third pair. I really like the top four. The third D pair there. Um, might need some work, but all teams really need some work usually with the third D pair. Then the goalies. Saros, another great season last year. He got that big deal. So we'll see how he does here this season. And then Wedgwood coming in. He was good with Dallas last year. When Ottinger was hurt, when Wedgwood had to come in and start a bunch of games in a row, um, he held the fort. He did pretty good. So a good backup there. Overall, a very good lineup from top to bottom. I would get Juuso Parsonen and Tomasino signed, and it would just make them that much better. Ian, what do you think about this possible lineup for the Predators heading into opening night?
The first thing I see is depth, a lot more depth, especially up front. When last year it was just a little bit too reliant at times on Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist, we all know that line carried them offensively. They don't have to worry about that as much now. You suddenly look at what this lineup possesses, and you've got now the top line is still going to be tough to handle and contain, but now you have Stamkos and Marchessault on a second line this year for this team. Colton Sissons, by the way, when he's paired with skill, he can be skilled too, and he can be an impact offensively. So that's a nice trio. If they do indeed run with Stamkos, Marchessault, and Sissons, I like that as a trio on that second line. All of a sudden, Thomas Novak, who I thought was extremely underrated last year, point producer, could chip in some goals, sees the ice well, and you put Evangelista, who showed signs of, maybe being that perennial 20, 25, 30 goal scorer. He could be that here in this league. He's down on the third line now, presumably, with Thomas Novak and the local kid from right here in Dundas, Mark Jankowski. So, like I said, that's a very solid third line. And because Novak's got good defensive instincts, it can be a good two-way line for them as well. And then all of a sudden, unfortunately for the likes of, Kiefer Bellows, Cole Smith, Phil Tomasino, and Juuso Parsonen, because of the ads at forward, they're pushed down the lineup a little bit. But the good news is you suffer some injuries. You got guys that can play. Tomasino can play. He's shown it at the NHL level. Parsonen can play at the NHL level. He's shown that. So the good news is that even for those guys, it's not as good because they're not going to play as much. But for the team, it's great because now they've got depth. There's guys that can be moved up the lineup and still be counted on to make an impact and contribute if need be due to injury. The defense, obviously, Yossi and Fabro talked about them. Great pair. Brady Shea comes in, expected to be on the second pair, presumably with Alex Carrier. Lozon, solid. He keeps his game simple. Does he get into trouble? Is he the fastest skater? And the same thing with Luke Shen. Is he the fastest skater? Absolutely not. But those two guys keep their game simple, play physical, just get the puck out of the zone, play it simple. And if they do that, they're effective. In fact, I think Luke Shen's had two of the better seasons defensively the last 2 years. I think when the year he got traded to Toronto, he played well for the Leafs in that second half of the year. He played pretty solid for Nashville last year. So, I like the blue line. I think it's definitely good enough. It's capable. And then in goal, you're fine. You got UC Saros and you've got Scott Wedgwood. I'd like to see Wedgwood get a decent amount of games because I think there's going to be a point where you can't run Saros 65, 70 games every year. You've got to give him a little bit of a chance to get a blow, to collect his have some downtime, especially if he's going to be playing, in the playoffs and being a big part of this team's success, obviously. So I like to see them balance out the goaltending assignments a little bit more, Nashville, this year. But no, that's a very solid lineup on paper. There's a lot to like. And of course, you're carried by a top line that was, honestly, no joke, one of the better top lines in the NHL last year, with the way Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist played. And now you add a Stamkos and Marchessault to that lineup. That's just gravy for Nashville.
Yeah, it should be a great season for the Predators. And when you're talking about the Predator season, that brings us right into Team Future Bets here. And quite a bit of different bets here for the Predators to look at. Of course, there's the Stanley Cup, the Conference, President's Trophy, and Win Division. Win Division, there it's a good price for them, plus 380 in the Central. And honestly, I think Nashville is going to be in contention. The issue, though, is that the Central is stacked. You've got Dallas at plus 230, Colorado at plus 260. I was looking at Colorado to maybe take a step back this season, but it looks like Landeskog could be making a debut earlier on in the season than expected. So you add him back. Of course, you have to see how he does with so much time off. But if he performs the way he has in the past, that's a huge addition for the Avalanche. And the Shushkin later on in the season, see what happens with him. But Colorado might not take that step back. Then you've got Nashville that's made this big off season. They're at plus 380. And then Winnipeg's at plus 700. So Winnipeg, you can't count them out either. I counted them out last year a little bit, and they finished second. So the Central is stacked. But when I'm looking at it at the top four bets, I would look at the Predators to win the division. I do think that they have a good shot at it. So that's something I would look at here. When it comes to the playoffs, minus 340, I would never recommend betting a minus 340, especially on a future bet. I don't see the Predators missing the playoffs, so that's nothing.
Hey, if you have the bankroll for it, lay minus 340 because I definitely think they're a playoff team, but you got to have the bankroll for it.
Yeah, that's true. 98.5 points. Over is minus 125, under minus 105. Of course, shop your lines. Different books have different numbers and different odds. The Predators last year had 99 points, and now their point total is at 98.5. So you look at what Nashville's done in the offseason, and yes, they're in a very tough division, but I don't see the Predators going backwards. I don't see it. So 98.5 points, I think is a good bet. What you can do, DraftKings, is go 90 plus, 100 plus, or 110 plus. So if you don't want to do the minus 125, you can get 100 plus points for minus 110. That's not bad either. So for me here, I'd be looking at the Predators to win the division, a smaller play there, but I like their point total over. I think should be a higher number. I think 98.5 with what they did last year, what they've done in the offseason. I think that number is a bit too low. So I would go with a smaller play in the division and then a play on the over. I would go with the 100 plus points at minus 110. And of course, least points in NHL. Plenty of other teams to talk about. Nashville's not finishing last in the NHL. I think we can all agree with that. Ian, what do you think here? Future bets for the Predators?
You know what? It's funny. I picked a team to join you for this team season preview of a team that I've probably got right up. It's right up there. It might be the team that I have the most preseason positions from a betting standpoint with. I have 4 of these already in pocket, over 98.5 points to win the division, to win the conference, to win the Stanley Cup. The only one I did not touch was the President's Trophy. Don't know if they're a President's Trophy winner, but then again, if I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, I don't want them to be a President's
Exactly.
Trophy
I
winner.
was just going to say that.
So from that standpoint, like I say, President's Trophy is a little more of a lotto type of deal. A lot of things have to go right, but I do like the point prop over division. It has great value in my opinion at plus 380. The conference and the Stanley Cup. To me, they are a team that's in the West that now has elevated themselves to contender status. Do a lot of things have to go right? Yeah. Steven Stamkos has to show he's still got a lot in the tank. Jonathan Marchessault, can he keep playing at that high level we saw in Vegas? But he's a playoff performer. If they're a playoff team, and obviously we both think they are, it's a guy you want on your side in the playoffs. He elevates at playoff time, Marchessault. Brady Shea's been through the playoff wars now, Rangers and Hurricanes. So tons of playoff experience you add to the back end and a great puck mover. You've got the goalie in Saros, who's capable of stealing games and stealing a series for you. Andrew Burnett, a great job as far as the coaching is concerned. One thing I want to point out, too, with the Predators, they improved on their goals per game last year. Their defense dropped slightly last year. I think that's a product of Andrew Burnett. We remember when he was with Florida, he'd let the players play, if you will, let the horses out of the stable. You could jump into the play. He wanted a little bit more of an up-tempo brand of hockey. If there's a chance to be had, pinch if you have to. That's the way they played, and that was the way Florida played a couple of years ago with Burnett, the head coach, the year they won the President's Trophy. And then Maurice, of course, gets there, and they revert into more defensive-minded. But Burnett definitely preaches a more of an offensive-minded, open trade chances kind of system. And I think that's what you saw with Nashville last year. They were a better offensive team. They went from below 3 goals per game to, I think, 3.24 goals per game last year, where defensively they did drop down just a little bit. I think this year it's going to be more of the same, where this actually does look like it could be more of an offensive team once again this season. So overs in Nashville games, something to consider here, just based on the style of play you're going to see. And obviously you already have a dynamic top line that can light things up. And then you're adding a Steven Stamkos and a Jonathan Marchessault to it, and you're dropping quality guys, quality players down to the bottom 6 now, with all these additions like a Tomasino and a Parsonen and an Evangelista and a Thomas Novak. And all of a sudden, you've got 4 lines that can contribute and get on the scoreboard. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. They're still going to be solid defensively, but you saw it last year, first year with Burnett. More of an offense. The offense got better, more of an onus on let's make sure we score some goals. Now, in the playoffs, they actually played a tighter style, but in the regular season, they were willing to play a little more wide open. So as a result, Nashville could be a team that you're able to cash some overs with as far as game totals.
All right. Perfect. The 110 points plus 370 is appeal. The plus 370 is very appealing. I don't know if the Predators get to 110. I could see them being at that 105, 106 point. But if you really, really do like the Predators this season, if you think they have a really great regular season, 110 plus points, a plus 370. They're in a tough division, though, in the Central. If they were in a different division, I would probably be looking at that play. But if anyone's interested, I do think we both think they're going to have a great season this year.
Keep in mind,
Player
too,
future bet.
there are questions at the bottom of that division still. Like, how much better is Chicago going to be? That's going to be a big question. Is Minnesota going to take a jump this year up? That's a question. St. Louis, they've got work to do. But obviously at the top, you've got Dallas. They're still going to be great. Colorado's still going to be great. Nashville's going to be very good. The top part of the division is really good. How much of those lesser teams that missed the playoffs last year, because I actually think there's a chance that St. Louis is better, Chicago's better, and Minnesota's better. So from that standpoint, how much of a gap can they make if they jump from just a little bit better to a lot better than last year, suddenly this is a tougher division.
Yeah, I agree with you. With Minnesota, of course, a different show, but Jared Spurgeon returning is huge. So if he is healthy this year, that is one big addition.
How many times have I
For
said on the Ice Guys show, oh, geez, Jared Spurgeon out again? Oh, boy. Yeah.
yeah,
And how tough it is for Minnesota when he's not in.
exactly. So player future bets for Nashville, and there's a lot of them. With the additions of Marchessault and Stamkos, there's a lot of future bets here. I am going to let Ian go first here with this segment, but the one thing I wanted to say first, Stamkos, you can pencil in anytime goal for me for Stamkos when he faces Tampa Bay. Yeah, especially the first game, probably both games. So you can just pencil it in. Stamkos anytime goal against Tampa Bay. Ian already mentioned how motivated Stamkos is going to be, and in that game, there's going to be motivation. So something I'll be looking at for the regular season. Ian, there's a lot of props here for the Nashville Predators. What are your thoughts here?
Look, Philip Forsberg, what can you say? He was awesome last year. No denying that whatsoever. Incredible season. 94 points, 48 goals, played all 82 games. But here's the thing. Is he going to play 82 games? Is he going to stay healthy? He has had some seasons in the past where he's been hurt. There's more options and depth at the forward group offensively now. I don't think you're buying low on Forsberg props, personally, at the over 41.5, over 92.5. The ones that I like the most are probably the new guys, Marchessault and Stamkos, and especially Stamkos because of just how thoroughly disgusted he was with the way Tampa Bay tried to lowball him and just, give him a contract that was just, ridiculous, for everything he had meant to that team. So that's a pissed off, still a really good player that's really angry, really, I think, out to prove everyone how much he still has to offer. So, the Stamkos 34.5, 74.5 points, I could get behind that as far as those two props. Marchessault, not, I think the numbers are pretty solid with Marchessault, but I would still think he's going to want to make an impact. But Stamkos, I'd maybe get interested in that. I think you see of the futures at the bottom there with Josi, Saros, and Brunette. I think the one I like the most is Saros at 12-1 to win the Vezina. I think there's potential he has a Vezina caliber year. It's going to help that I think now they insulate the blue line now with Brady Shea added. That's going to help a little bit as well. I think if I were to take a shot with any of those three defense categories here, it would be UC Saros. I just think that Roman Josi has a lot more quality competition to go through to win the Norris as far as blue liners compared to Saros with the Vezina. I know there's Shesterkin on the other side, but Saros, I think, has got a better chance to win the Vezina based on quality of competition than Josi does with the Norris, in my opinion. So that's why I veer more towards Saros at that 12-1 to win the Vezina. Brunette could win the Jack Adams, but I think there's going to have to be a team that makes a greater improvement from last year to this year to win that award. I'm not so sure that, this was still a playoff team that had a really good season last year. I don't know if it'll be enough of an improvement for Brunette to win it, so I'd probably pass on that. So the ones I like the most are the Stamkos props, goals and points over, and probably Saros for the Vezina at 12-1.
All right, Brunette is actually second. So Sheldon Keefe is the odds favorite, and Brunette's actually second,
You
probably
can
because of
understand that.
everything.
Yeah, there's a reason Sheldon Keefe's favored. I mean, that is a team that was out of the playoffs last year. If they make the playoffs and have a great season and they're a much improved roster, he's going to have a damn good chance to win it. You understand why he's the favorite in that Jack Adams market.
Yeah, I agree. Looking into player future bets here for me, I agree with you on Stamkos. I love Stamkos points over 74.5. He had 81 last year, 84 the season before that, 106 the season before that. So, of course, when you look at these player future total bets for the season, you are really hoping that your players stay healthy because any kind of 10-game injury can just wipe these right out. So that's something to keep in mind if you are betting these type of bets, is that injuries can happen. And of course, that's something you got to keep in mind. But Stamkos over 74.5 points. I like that. And I do like Yossi as well, over 84.5 points. He 85 last year, only 59 and 67 games played the year before, 96 points in 80 games played the season before. So if he misses time, he's not hitting this prop. But if he has a healthy season uh, with the players that have been added to this offense, I think Yossi is just going to um, play even better with offensively. So I do like Stamkos points, Yossi points. Marcia, so it's not that I think he might not fit in, but I kind of just want to see how he does fit in with Stamkos and on that line. I feel like Stamkos will fit in better, but Marcia, so I just in order to bet something like this, I kind of want to see how he does first. I'm pretty sure you can bet these live throughout the season as well, so you can definitely take a look at them live. And then when it comes to the three awards at the bottom, um, no plays for me here. I really do like this Predators team, but not a lot of Norris, Vesna, Jack Adams bets for me personally. I will have a Calder bet, and then I may have a couple of the others. But as of this moment, as we're recording the show, no plays there for me. But I do like Stamkos and Roman Yossi over their point totals. And that is it. That is the Nashville Predators season preview show. Ian, thank you for joining me again. As always, everyone make sure to go give Ian a follow at Pobano Bets. His Twitter at /X link is also in the description below if you just want to click it there. Any ending thoughts here before we finish off the show, Ian?
Get ready, Music City. It's going to be a fun season. You made a lot of additions. Now, look, we've seen past teams where they make all these big splashes in the offseason and things crumble, and it's just it doesn't work. And the chemistry's screwed up, and players don't play the way you think they are. And it's not a given. It's not a foregone conclusion that Nashville adds Marchessault, Stamkos, Shea, and they're a much better team on paper, and it's going to click, and they're going to just roll right through the NHL, have a huge long playoff run, and win the cup. Still got to go out and do it. But on paper, there's a lot to like with this roster. Guys that play, players that played in, important roles for this team last year, like a Novak and Parsonen, those two Evangelista, third and fourth liners now on this team. Think about that. Think about now what all of a sudden just adding two guys up front like Stamkos and Marchessault has done for the overall depth of Nashville up front, a team that had to rely on so much of their offense on that top line last year. You've just got all of a sudden four lines that can all get on the scoreboard. If you have injuries, you're okay because you can move up guys that have been used to playing more minutes in a bigger role like a Novak, Parsonen, Evangelista. They're fine on the back end. They've got, when he's on his game, one of the best goalies in the NHL, and UC Saros. Good coach in Burnett. Get excited if you're Nashville. This should be a fun season.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me again, Ian, and we will see you guys on the next NHL season preview show. Thanks for watching, guys.